You know exactly what happened. He discovered something, and it changed everything. If there had been a solid foundation, the revelation would not have had such weight. If there had been trust, you wouldn't be here, at the mercy of what he thinks. If there had been authenticity, you wouldn't fear his reaction. This is not a surprise, it is the consequence of accumulating secrets. He listens, perceives, questions, and you try to explain, evade, justify, but none of this changes the reality. The impact is profound. The truth is not easy to digest, and for him, this is a shock. You knew it could happen. You knew that at some point the masks would fall. No one prepares for total exposure. No one feels comfortable being exposed. And now the structure you had, fragile on the inside, begins to be tested. He distances himself, confused. The silence becomes deafening. The connection that seemed unbreakable now seems like a thread about to snap. This discovery is not just about you. It's about him too, and what it reveals about both of you. The truth exposes what was hidden and leaves no room for illusions. The fragility of the situation is palpable. The bond that once seemed strong reveals itself to be vulnerable, and you realize that decisions were made in the shadows. If standing still is a choice, the cost will be yours. The reality has already been presented. The revelation echoes between you. He can no longer go back. The image you projected, the unspoken promises, all of it now reflects distortedly. He distances himself not out of a lack of love, but because of the doubt that consumes him. What he thought he knew about you, about the relationship, no longer makes sense. You observe the interplay of light and shadows in his eyes. It's as if a curtain had been pulled back, exposing not only the errors but also the fragility of his own expectations. You looked at this relationship as a shelter, but now it feels like a trap. Meanwhile, each passing second weighs more. You try to fill the void with words and gestures, but they sound empty, echoing in the vastness of silence. You want him to understand. You want him to see the truth from your perspective, but in the search for understanding you get lost. What do you really desire? The certainty that he will stay, or the freedom to be who you really are? He hesitates, not because he doesn't feel, but because doubt paralyzes him. He sees himself in the mirror of your vulnerability, and that scares him. It is a mirror that reflects not only you, but what he has been avoiding confronting within himself. He always believed he was in control, but now he realizes that control is an illusion. What he has or thinks he has crumbles. And what do you do meanwhile? You observe the transformation. What was once a safe space now becomes an arena of internal conflicts. Each handles the revelation in their own way. For you, it is an opportunity for growth, a chance to break free from the invisible chains that bind you. For him, it is a moment of forced introspection. He wonders if he really knows you, and in that questioning he begins to see more than he could have imagined. You have been there before, in that place of denial, trying to smooth the sharp edges of the truth. But now the pain is palpable, an exposed wound that cannot be ignored. It is at this point that the fragility of the relationship becomes evident. The conversations that once flowed easily are now punctuated by heavy silences. He delves into his thoughts, and you find yourself reacting to what was not said. The words that hang in the air are more revealing than any declaration. He is afraid of rejection, afraid of losing what is no longer safe but still familiar. Confronting reality requires courage, you know this, but it is necessary to accept that change is not instantaneous. Wounds need time to heal, but there are no guarantees that they will heal together. He can choose the easier path, the one that ignores the truth, or he can choose to face the abyss that opens before him. The choice is his, and it does not depend on you. Heavy decisions are made in moments of crisis. He opts to avoid confrontation for a while, hoping that the dust will settle. But the dust never settles without leaving marks, and these marks, once made, remain. You feel it, the strangeness that hangs in the air. It's no longer a question of what was said or not said, but of how each one carries their truths. What you expected him to feel now seems secondary. Reality is not made of expectations, but of actions, and his actions speak louder than any word. One day he returns with the intention of talking, but you're no longer waiting for it. The weeks of silence have shown another side of the situation. What once seemed like an unbreakable connection is now just a thin line. You don't need him to understand. The truth has already happened. The bond only exists because you sustain it. And as long as he is in doubt, this bond will continue to weigh. When he finally speaks, his words are cautious. He reveals fears that have always been there, but that he never had the courage to express. Upon hearing them, you understand that it's not just about you, it's about him, his insecurities, his choices. The consequences of both are intertwined, but the responsibility to act is individual. And so, reality is presented. What was once a refuge is now a battlefield. But this battle is not for control, but rather for the harsh and naked truth. And maybe that is all you have right now. The option to confront each other, not as figures in a drama, but as individuals who need to decide. Decide if the pain of discovery is worth it in the name of something that can still be built. The reality has already been presented. You observe the hesitation in his eyes. The space between you weighs like a storm about to break. He doesn't nod in agreement, nor does he make gestures to try to ease the tension. The silence is almost palpable. And in that silence you feel the echo of all the unspoken words. What was once comfort is now a labyrinth of uncertainties. As he struggles with his insecurities, you recognize the fragility of the roles you have played for each other. In every touch that was never made and in every averted gaze there is an untold story, a chapter that refuses to be written. He starts to speak, but the words come out garbled. He fears that each sentence might shatter what remains of the relationship even more. His exposed vulnerability is frightening. It reflects your own uncertainties. You are also afraid that it will all end, that this moment is the end of something you never knew how to define. As he speaks, you realize that he is trying to see beyond the surface, but the attempts at communication seem more like leaves rustling in the wind, words floating without weight, without depth. You want him to dive into the deeper layers, but he hesitates, afraid of getting lost. The reflection in your mind brings to the surface memories of moments that were once full of meaning. Shared laughter, whispered promises on quiet nights. These fragments blend with the pain of the current revelation. Now, nostalgia is a poison that slowly seeps in, making you question if that past is still relevant or if it has just become a distant echo. As he tries to articulate his feelings, you see his effort in opening up. But the truth is that he is still not ready to embrace the complexities that this revelation has brought to light. He talks about fear of the unknown, fear of losing what has already been built. But you realize that this fear is not just about what you have, but about who he really is. A man who fears his own shadow, this makes you think. He has always leaned towards safety, which is understandable, but now safety seems to be tied to an illusion. At the same time, he struggles to understand what he truly desires. The connection that seemed unbreakable is now steeped in doubts, becoming a minefield that could explode at any moment. The bond that united you, sustained by promises and hopes, is now being tested. You know that life is full of decisions and that each choice carries its weight. There are no guarantees or magic formulas. Love is not a prison, it is a dance that both of you need to learn to perform again. So, what to do? You could hold back, avoid confrontation, wait for everything to resolve itself. But that inaction would only perpetuate the pain. The question goes beyond wanting him to understand. It's about you understanding what you need. You need to know where you are, who you are. Reality imposes itself, and deep down, you know that standing still is a choice. You must act, not to save him, but to save yourself. Love should not be a sacrifice. It is not just a silent agreement to maintain appearances. The heavy silences turn into an invitation for reflection. Where is the authenticity in this space? You realize that a deep cut is needed, a rupture that brings to the surface all the insecurities, all the discomfort that has been buried. What is really true? If he doesn't feel challenged to see his own weaknesses, nothing will change. And this becomes a cruel paradox. The need for mutual growth against the desire to protect what exists. Everyone deserves to confront their shadows, and maybe this will create a new space, a new possibility. When he finally looks into your eyes, it is as if he is seeking an answer that you cannot give. And yet, there is a growing strength within you, the desire to be free. Freedom is not in seeking his approval. It is in accepting the truth. So you decide to be honest. I can't sustain this anymore. I can't be the only one carrying the weight of this bond. Your words cut through the air. They are harsh and honest, and for the first time, you feel light. Each vibrant syllable brings unexpected clarity. He watches you in silence. A mix of confusion and understanding crosses his face. The space between you changes. What was once a chasm now transforms into a bridge, a chance for reconstruction, or for goodbye. The reality has been presented. The choices are now his. What you build from here cannot depend on what he chooses. The decision is no longer an expectation but a declaration of autonomy. You are not just waiting. You are acting. It is time to confront the raw truth without any more illusions, and in this challenge there is renewed potential. The structure can change, and so the dance of transformation begins. He still remains silent, processing your words. Each second drags on, and you feel the pressure of the empty space between you. The emotions that were once contained now pulse like a river about to overflow. You can almost hear the gears turning in his head, trying to fit the pieces of this distorted puzzle together. You watch his expression. It is a mix of confusion, anger, and a glimpse of emerging understanding. He did not expect you to position yourself like this. For him, the game has always been about controlling the narrative, but now you are the author of your own story. His vulnerability is palpable, a crack in the armor he has worn for so long. But this is not about compassion, it is about clarity. You are not here to save him. You need an authentic partner, someone who shares the weight of reality. As the minutes pass, each tick-tock of the clock transforms into a call to action. You want to scream, "Look at me, see what our relationship really is." But in reality, you know that he needs to do this on his own. You cannot carry this burden alone. He finally takes a deep breath, and you notice this small change, a subtle, yet significant movement. The words begin to flow, hesitant, as if they were leaves being blown by the wind. He tries to speak about his insecurities, about the fear of losing you, and what you have built so far. It is a genuine effort, but still timid. "I guess I never knew how strong you were," he says, and that phrase echoes like a drum. It is an unexpected admission, and you find yourself on a thin line between wanting to comfort him and needing to stand firm. But what do you really want to convey? It is not just about strength. It is about mutual understanding. You do not want to be seen merely as someone who endures pain, but as a partner who deserves respect and transparency. Your strength should not be a compliment. It should be the norm. What matters is not what you think I have become, but what we are willing to confront together, you respond, your voice firm but not ruthless. The challenge is set. You are neither apologizing nor giving up your truth. You are demanding recognition. He seems surprised. This new angle of the conversation is not something he expected. The old pattern of comfort in discussing feelings begins to unravel. What each one wants is no longer a riddle to be deciphered, but a clear choice to be made. Feelings of doubt and frustration vie for space within him, while the fear of losing you turns into a shadow that chases him. You observe this conflict, knowing that all of this is part of the process. No one grows without pain, but pain is not the goal. Change is. Love is not the only thing that sustains this, you continue. We need honesty, and that is a two-way street. Now, the idea of vulnerability is not just yours. It is an invitation for him to expose himself too, an act of courage, even if it means facing hard truths. You notice the muscles in his face slowly relaxing. The internal struggle is still intense, but it's as if the layers of fog are beginning to dissipate. He is starting to see the full picture, not just the part that suits him. I don't know where to start, he says, desperation in his voice. It's not a weakness. It's the vulnerability you so desired to see. You allow him to feel that it's okay not to have all the answers. Start with what is true for you. It doesn't need to be perfect, just sincere. And remember, I'm here not to compete, but to find a way. And so the atmosphere changes. The heavy air of uncertainty begins to transform into a palpable possibility. Each word he utters seems to become lighter, more honest. He talks about his frustrations, about being stuck in time, and you can't help but notice that this sincerity is a vital step. As he speaks, you realize that this is not just a moment of revelation, but a collective rebirth. Both of you are shedding your illusions. The space between you is becoming fertile ground for a new kind of connection, one that does not rely on empty promises, but on shared realities. What once was oppressive now seems vibrant. The fear of the unknown gives way to eager but exciting anticipation. As he opens up, something in you also begins to loosen. It's not a relief, but a new perspective. You don't need to fear fragility. It can be the foundation for something real. Then, there is a moment of pause, a silence laden with meaning. He looks you in the eyes, and for the first time, you don't see doubt. You see an invitation to change, not necessarily together, but as individuals who have decided to face their respective realities. Chills run down your spine. You realize that regardless of what happens, you are lifting the weight off your shoulders. The responsibility of maintaining the illusion is no longer yours. The dance of control, of dependence, is being replaced by lighter steps, each at their own pace. You say goodbye to what was, while the new configuration between you begins to take shape. Uncertainty still exists, but now it is accompanied by the promise of authenticity. Reality has already been presented, and now, instead of an abyss, there is a bridge. The transformation is underway.